In the middle of the Judean Desert, it's hot and the ground is cracked and dry. Everything's silent except the wind. Then out of nowhere, this massive, flat-topped mountain rises straight up from the earth, like a mesa, but steeper. And on top, the ruins of a fortress that once defied the greatest empire on earth. This is Masada, and nearly 2,000 years ago, it became the site of one of the most dramatic last stands in history.
Welcome to History Corner.
This all takes place in the 1st century, during the time of the Roman Empire. Rome ruled pretty much everything, including Judea, the ancient homeland of the Jewish people. But Roman rule wasn't exactly gentle. They taxed people into poverty, disrespected Jewish customs, and to speak out against the empire was violently met. Eventually, the pressure cooker exploded. In 66 AD, the Jewish population rose up in a full-blown revolt. At first, they actually pulled off some surprising victories, overrunning Roman garrisons, reclaiming cities, even holding Jerusalem. But it didn't last for long. Rome sent in General Vespasian, a no-nonsense military commander, to crush the rebellion. And with him came his son, Titus, young, ambitious, and already making a name for himself as a rising Roman leader, along with 48,000 troops. They moved slowly, methodically, retaking cities one by one. And then, in 70 AD, the Romans laid siege to the heart of it all, Jerusalem. Now, Jerusalem wasn't just a city. It was a spiritual center of the Jewish people, and it was heavily fortified. Massive stone walls, watchtowers, gates. The city was packed with civilians, fighters, priests, many of them refugees from earlier Roman attacks. And the Romans surrounded it completely. They cut off food, water, and any chance of escape. Inside, things fell apart fast. Factions of Jewish rebels turned on each other. There was infighting, backstabbing, and even civil war inside the walls, while Roman siege engines battered them from the outside. The factions eventually united and mounted a fierce resistance, but by then it was already too late. Titus ordered his legions to build massive siege works, including huge towers and battering rams. The fighting was brutal and relentless. This went on for about 5 months, and eventually the Romans broke through. What followed was pure horror. The city was set ablaze. The Second Temple, the most sacred site in Jerusalem, was burned to the ground. Some say the fire was accidental. Others believe Titus let it happen. Either way, it was God. The streets ran red with blood. Tens of thousands were killed. Men, women, children. Didn't matter. Those who survived? Most were enslaved or marched off in chains to Rome. The destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD didn't just end a revolt. It shattered a nation. That could have been the end of the story. But way out in the desert, one last rebel stronghold remained untouched: Masada. Now, Masada wasn't just any mountain. It had been turned into a fortress palace by King Herod around 30 BC, nearly a century before the rebellion. Herod was no ordinary king. He was wealthy, paranoid, and constantly looking over his shoulder. So he turned Masada into his emergency hideout. Massive storerooms, rainwater cisterns carved deep into the rock, a double-walled fortress, and a 3-level palace hanging off the north cliff, complete with baths, mosaics, and Roman luxury. It was built to be a place no army could reach and no siege could break. Fast forward almost 100 years, and a group of Jewish rebels known as the Sicarii took it over. Led by Eleazar ben Yair, they brought their families, around 960 people in total, and made Masada their final stronghold after the rest of Judea had fallen. They had food, they had water, and they had height. They were ready to hold out for as long as it took. But Rome wasn't done yet. In 73 AD, the Roman governor of Judea, Lucius Flavius Sylla, was given one last task: end the rebellion completely. Now, Sylla wasn't just a bureaucrat. He was a career military man, a veteran of Roman campaigns, and a rising star under the Flavian dynasty. He earned a reputation for being calm, efficient, and ruthless when needed. Silva arrived with the 10th Legion, thousands of trained soldiers, engineers, and workers. But he didn't try to charge up the mountain. That would have been suicide. Instead, he built a wall, 7 miles long, all the way around the mountain base, cutting the rebels off completely. Then he got really ambitious. On the western side, where the cliffs were slightly less steep, he ordered the construction of a massive siege ramp made of earth, timber, and stone. It took weeks to build. The defenders on top could only watch as that ramp crept closer every day. Eventually, it became clear, once the Romans got that battering ram to the top, the walls wouldn't hold. The end was coming. According to the ancient historian Josephus, Eleazar gave one final speech. He told his people, "Since we, long ago, my generous friends, resolved never to be servants to the Romans, nor to any other than to God himself, I cannot but esteem it as a favor that God hath granted us, that it is still in our power to die bravely and in a state of freedom." They made a choice. They burned their belongings so the Romans wouldn't think they surrendered out of desperation. They then drew lots. 10 men were chosen to kill the rest, then one chosen to kill the final 9. And finally, he took his own life. When Silva's forces finally breached the fortress the next day, they expected a fight. But what they found instead was silence. The defenders were gone. Only 2 women and 5 children survived. They'd hidden in a cistern and later told the Romans what had happened. Today, Masada is a national symbol in Israel, a place of pilgrimage, memory, and meaning, of a mountain fortress and the people who refused to kneel. For decades, Israeli soldiers swore an oath at the top, "Masada shall not fall again." Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.